Oh. How's it going, everybody? So I apologize up front because my voice is a little rough. I managed to get through all of Slamdance without getting sick, and then the very last day, as we were breaking everything down and cleaning up, I started getting a sore throat and a little bit of a cough. So sorry if it's a little rough right now, but Slamdance was a ton of fun, and if you ever get the chance, I would highly recommend volunteering one year because it's just such an amazing community, and way more than Sundance, they really cater to those independent creative filmmakers that are just out there doing it on their own, which is really what this channel is all about. Anyway, so because I was so busy for the last 2 weeks and I wasn't able to get a video out yesterday or last week, I wanted to make sure that we got at least something for you this weekend. So while I was at Slamdance, I sat down with a group of filmmakers from Sydney, Australia, who in my opinion had the funniest short film of the entire festival. Now, the film isn't up on YouTube or anything like that right now. There's just a trailer for it, but I would highly recommend checking it out, and I am going to link all of their info in the description below so you can learn more about these guys and know exactly when the film will be released. Now, just a little bit of a warning, it is audio only because I just had my Tascam recorder with me, and at one point we did have to stop and change locations because there was another event starting and we had lost track of time. So I really hope you enjoy this. These are some really brilliant filmmakers who have some really interesting thoughts on the film industry, on being an independent, low-budget filmmaker, and it's well worth a watch. So we'll see you next time, and I'm going to go drink some tea because my voice is shot. All right, how's it going, everybody? So we haven't had videos in a couple weeks because I have been up at Slamdance and it has been pretty hectic, but there have been some really incredible films this year. If you didn't get a chance to go, you definitely need to try and get there next year. But because we haven't had videos, I am sitting down with the filmmakers of one of my favorite films from this year's festival. It's called Tunnel Ball, and it is the funniest damn thing I've seen all year. It is so good. So
it's been a very tough year.
Yeah. So real quick, if you'll just go through and introduce yourselves and tell us what you did on set.
Yeah, I'm Davis Jensen. I wrote, directed, and produced it, and I edited it too.
I'm Luca Baroni-Peters. I shot it.
I'm Ruben Ward, and I was the lead actor in the film. That's it.
That's all you
Well,
are.
that's it. But to be clear, this is because you guys at home haven't seen this yet. When he says the lead actor, there are maybe 50 different parts in this, and you play every single one but two.
Yeah.
We can give you the trailer so that
you can see it a bit more.
Oh,
yeah.
that would be perfect.
Yeah,
they would love that.
Yes,
yeah, it's such a good film. So yeah, obviously one of the things in there is there's a lot of VFX because you are duplicating somebody a lot. So can you tell me a little bit about how that process was of both shooting those and then in post?
Yeah. So in the idea's inception, I was like, I have no idea how to do this. So we did a lot of we had about 3 days of test shoots where it turned out pretty shit. It turned out pretty bad.
We went into the real shoot with zero confidence in ourselves.
God.
Normally not what you want after the end of a test shoot week. But
I think the test sheets, they really showed us what we didn't know.
That's amazing, because this is all new information to me. That was not communicated to me.
we put on a very brave face on set.
Oh,
This will work in post.
I think that is most short indie films, though. I know with the last two that I did, especially the most recent one, it was a lot of just I look like I know what I'm doing, but I really don't, and we're just kind of figuring it out. Especially since we had to recast 2 days, the entire cast 2 days before
I'm so sorry.
the shoot. Our lead actress got the script at 11 o'clock at night, the night before the shoot. We said, here's the script, we'll see you at 6 a.m. tomorrow, get some sleep.
And I know how you feel. We got stuck with a really shitty cast as well, but it just didn't have time.
Oh, good.
It's true.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, speaking of, how was it for you to act in this? I know we kind of skipped that last question, but I think this is probably going to be a little more interesting to them than describing how you masked out just over and over and over again.
There's a lot of YouTube tutorials.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and here's one. Let's get into it. So open up Premiere Pro. No, After Effects. Okay. Photoshop. This was weird. It was the biggest screen acting thing I've done ever so far. in terms of time and ambition. So it was a lot of fun, and Davis was an excellent director to work with. We had a lot of fun with it, which was his keynote that he gave after every take is, all right, yeah, let's have fun with it. But no, it was good. We worked fairly collaboratively on just like the specific dialogue lines. I really like being able to have the freedom, especially like it's good script. It's a very good script. I'm not trying to drag the script, but like any script you get, there's going to be lines on an indie film where they haven't. Well, it's just like the way it words is really hard to make it sound natural. So it's really good to work with someone who's like, oh yeah, let's tweak it. Even just like single words. And so that was really nice. Playing lots of different characters is a lot of fun. And it's very difficult. But also, like, you just get to a point where you're like, I'm just doing facial expressions now, you know? When you're like 20 kids in the same classroom and you've got to shoot all of those over like 3.5 hours for a 2-second establishing shot. It's
there is one scene where you essentially switch bodies with the other actor, right? So you're suddenly playing the only other character in the film.
And I did not think of that in directing it at all. I was like, yeah, just be like Wilson now. Just change yourself a bit. There was no preparation. I'm sorry about that.
I just kind of like pretended I was making fun of Wilson, the other actor, and like doing an impression of him, I guess, a little bit. I think he did the same for me because he does a bit where he plays me as well in the film. So yeah, I don't know. You kind of just do. I mean, it's easy because his character's super different to all of my ones, so it was kind of easy to jump into that kind of less controlling, less dominant character.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I just say that you've really understated how, when you say we changed, even single words, it's great to change single words. It wasn't a single word kind of thing. I'm telling you, the second half of that film, there is a zero scripted.
Yeah, no, so the first half of the film was almost to the script. I would say almost exactly. Probably the first 2/3. Then the last third, we just had, look, I don't want to play myself up a bit. No, and then the last 2 scenes where Ruben just kind of goes for it. It was all Ruben just having fun with it, as we said on set. The joke was that I wasn't really directing. I was just telling Ruben to have fun. And that's, someone said that's great direction.
Yeah, no, you were doing a lot more than that. But yeah, I think it was a lot of fun being able to improv through it a lot. Davis and I met, I guess, at an improv gig where I was performing. And so it was cool. Yeah, it was really good just to be able to say, even if we don't use this, it makes, I think, your performance a lot stronger, even if you go back to the safety, the script. If you can try something and it works and it gets a laugh, but then you're like, oh, let's do it like this. So I think improving, even if you don't use the craziest take you did, is always a useful thing, for me at least.
It also made the crew and like the vibe on set so much better. Like, it was so fun. It was such a nice set to be on, and I had to like slap Luca heaps of times because you laughed so much throughout the whole shoot. You ruined so many takes.
I actually had to hit record and then walk out of the room for one scene.
Oh, God.
Because I couldn't deal with it.
Just not a professional look for a cinematographer.
No, not at all.
Anyone watching this, do not hire me.
No, it was that. Well, that's it. Let's talk about the cinematography for a sec, because it was really solid. Like, especially when you have films that have, when you're shooting so many takes, both the takes themselves and then like just coverage of each of the different actors in it. Like, like, how hard was it to just maintain? Because I know a lot of newer cinematographers really struggle to maintain consistency across all those shots.
Yeah.
Was that really hard for you, or did you find it pretty easy?
Well, we came at the visual style of the film with kind of 2 key ideas. The first was a limitation in that anytime we had a cloning shot, the camera had to be locked off for it to work. So that kind of dictated the style of all of that part of the film. And the second idea was, it's such a stupid comedy. It's like, it's so parts of it. No, like, it's, I love it, but parts of it are so silly that the cinematography needs to be so serious and so straight down the line for the jokes to land. So that's why we've got like, the 2.35 wide screen, and we've got like, the big wide shots and the pushing in, establishing shots of the school, and and then of course we have a few like crash zooms and silly, funny little things like that. But in general, it was like it should be a sports movie, a very serious sports movie cinematography style.
I was curious, like, if there were any specific influences on that. I know, like, I brought up Taika Waititi and his, at least, style, which I don't, not necessarily visual style, but as far as the tone and the approach to how you think about cinematography.
I think a lot of it came from what the story was as well. I thought it would be a lot funnier if, as like Luca was saying, we shot this like it was a very sincere sports comedy. So I thought the more beautiful we can make it, the better. I think a wide lens really lends itself to bring out funny performances as well, because we could capture a lot. We had a lot of room to improvise around our shots because it was such a wide shot as well.
We wanted it to be like comedy through film techniques as well as just, because there's a difference, right, between like, you know, an Adam Sandler talking in a mid-shot kind of comedy versus like a Taika Waititi and Edgar Wright using visual style as comedy as well. And in this, so much of the comedy is visual, like Ruben multiplied multiple times with his pants down kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that I feel is often lacking, and you kind of mentioned this, is kind of lacking from a lot of today's comedy. You know, you think about Adam McKay and Will Ferrell and how they kind of started that with like, we'll just do 1,000 takes and let people improvise and then it's comedy, but not everybody is Will Ferrell and Adam McKay.
No, exactly.
So, so I definitely think that style really lends itself to that kind of film because, it is so visual. What was, for each of you, what was the hardest part of this whole process for you?
You start, Luca.
To be honest, I was so ill the whole time we were making it. I was like wrapped up in a jacket, like trying not to cough and laugh and sneeze during every take.
We shot this during one of the most intense periods at a uni where everyone had to make a film in the space of 3 months. So no one was a human at the time.
Yeah.
Especially not Luca.
Especially not me. So I think just like physically and the tediousness of cloning all those Rubens, really, and as soon as you get stuck on a shot on set, you feel like you're getting bogged down, and then it's all psychological. Even though we were moving through it was just long, and it was just a hard shoot. We had, just to be clear, we had no crew, like no lighting,
no money,
nothing, no money. We had $150 to make the thing.
Well, that's perfect for, like, I mean, most of the people that I reach out to, that's the same style. None of us have money. I mean, my last short film cost me $300 and it was all on food. Like, you know,
exactly.
like that's kind of where it seems like. So the fact that you've made it all the way to Slamdance and you're getting talked about so much, it really goes to show that, like, you do not need those huge budgets
100%.
to make a good film. Just find a good story or a good piece of comedic.
And find good people who are willing to collaborate with you for free.
Very much.
And how is that in Australia? Because you're all from Sydney, right? Yeah. So how is the community there?
So we came from a film school where we have quite a good network of people because we had this. We went through a 3-year degree with a bunch of filmmakers. So we had the whole crew set out for us.
We have a really strong, like, we have an office space together with 10 other people from Sydney, and we're just a little network of film people, and we kind of like are growing that and expanding it as much as we can. And I think that's like the most invaluable thing about film school, really, is just meeting lots of people, meeting lots of peers, and growing up into the industry with them.
Yeah, I think Stephen, that's definitely something that I think most film schools you walk out of thinking like, well, I spent a lot of money to make some good connections. You know? I think it was George Lucas that said, film school will never teach you anything about making a movie, but it's a great place to experiment and teach yourself.
That's exactly what our film school was.
Yeah. So what about for you? What was the hardest part as the director? Or as the editor, producer, anything else?
I'd say the hardest role I had in it was editing. VFX is not my forte in any way. And it was also, editing a comedy can be pretty strenuous as well, because if a joke doesn't land, you want to go back and really just fine tune it, which makes it so much harder when you have 40, like 12 different elements in a scene, 12 different Rubens to kind of cut around and try and make their jokes land in the background.
Yeah, that's, I mean, each take for each one of those, if there's 12 different Rubens, then like, that's like 100 or some
Yeah.
odd takes
Oh, mate.
for every single shot.
Yeah.
you know?
The premiere timeline, I saw it. It was a mess.
How long was your post process?
About 4 months.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And this is what 7 minutes?
11 minutes.
11 minutes. 11
Yeah.
minutes.
To be
Sorry,
fair,
I've watched so many shorts.
It started as a much longer
So there's like
film.
a 30 minutes.
It always does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to take time away from you guys, but on my last film, we had a really a rough wake up call. We had been editing for 5 months, and we screened it we thought the film was about 2 weeks from being finished, and we screened it in front of some master's level editing students and a professor at a university, and like got really good feedback. But about a minute into the film, I looked at my editor and I said, "This is boring, isn't it?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think it is. Like, we definitely need to cut this down." And sure enough, most of the feedback we got was, "There's a really good 10-minute film somewhere in this
Yeah,
20-minute,
A lot
short."
of the hardest part about the edit was cutting it down from there, though. I would say, like, making sure the jokes still landed, but like the jokes that were the best ones were still in there. There was so much funny stuff that hasn't made the film. Ruben and Wilson put such a background to so many of the characters in their improv, which was really impressive, but I just didn't fit the I guess the life of the film. It would have gone too long. It would have dragged on.
And there's a lot of scenes in the film where it is purely like a story scene, like Wilson getting kicked out of school by Ruben, which is a really short scene, 30 seconds or something, and it's important to drive the plot along. But we also have so much funny improv in that scene.
Yeah,
It's
think
just
exactly.
completely
In the
had to
first
go.
The takes were like longer than the film now. But that's like honestly.
Yeah, I think they were.
So it usually
The
is.
takes in that one scene went forever. Yeah.
And as the actor, is there like a specific line that, or just comedy bit that really stood out as either your favorite, funniest moment, or like a line that you really hated, or just like, because I feel like I started in acting, and that was
Right.
something for me where it always felt like the line I hated the most was the one people thought was the funniest. Were there any
Really?
like that for you? where-
There were
You just got a very different reaction?
There's a joke about Brecht in it that I asked.
favorite joke.
yeah.
My
That was your favorite,
joke.
and I
It still
said
is
you should cut every time we read it.
Still my favorite joke.
But no, I think I don't know. I find it very hard to stand here and say I was funniest when I said.
I know. I am asking a very self-indulgent question,
and I
but-
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you've warmed me up, and I'm ready now.
He is that kind of
I don't know. The whole speech. I made up this whole speech. Well, I didn't make it up. It was in the script, and it was quite similar at the end. That just gets so much darker than I think the original
so
writing was, because I don't know. It's just what I felt like the character needed to put all this pressure on these children.
You're talking about like how much you're in a dark space last year because the team didn't win.
lost. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that
myself
line.
was someone around me.
Was I wasn't disappointed this year, but I've been so disappointed for the past 12 months
yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that. It's like
You got a lot worse.
oh yeah, it's been 12 months of disappointment.
Great months of disappointment.
Yeah, it's so
Sorry, I
brilliant.
didn't.
You got a bit darker than that, I think, as well. Even
Yeah, it's heavy, but it kind of it's the whole point, and that I thought worked well with the original thesis of making it this kind of story about masculinity, these spaces, the problems that are there, wrapped up in a real gross sports movie.
Yeah, I think that's something that as people were coming out, I felt like a lot of people, I didn't feel like it wasn't there. It was not subtle about, those topics, but I feel like a lot of people kind of just get lost in the comedy and don't think that comedy can deliver a powerful message. Was that, I'm assuming that was something that, was that kind of the first thought, or did the comedy aspect come first?
The first thought, no, the comedy aspect came second, I think, to the idea. A lot of the time when I was writing, I was thinking about, like, I didn't want to just make a comedy because I feel like the shelf life is very little and it's not very rewarding. I think comedy is a genre that's really not utilized very well. I think it can make a lot of topics very accessible to people that often might not be willing to hear or enter the conversation at all, but when you can laugh about it and like kind of empathize with it before you start the conversation, I think it can really help, and I think comedy does that really well. A lot of people have said, like, once they've rewatched the film, they've kind of picked up on the themes more, or they got them at the beginning, or I told them about them and put in their face at the start. I think it was definitely in my mind when I was writing it to make it about something, to give it a bit of a theme and give it a bit of a purpose. Because I think the jokes land so much better as well then. Like, it's just it's a funnier film for it.
No, absolutely. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we had to move and all this, so this has gone a lot longer than I was wanted it to. But when will the film be out? Where can people see it?
It's an interesting question. So we world premiered at Slamdance, so it's still quite fresh, the whole distribution and that kind of thing. Hopefully in the next year it gets up somewhere public. I guess in Australia this should be up on iView eventually.
Okay.
I hope. There's talks of that, but who knows?
There's a trailer, and you can follow on Instagram at Tunnelball
Short Film.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to link all that stuff in the description for
thanks,
everyone to check out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the start of the film. Do you have a production company or?
This was made. We do have a production company. Me, Luca, and our friend Shana run a company called Fat Salmon. We all worked on the film. It wasn't a Fat Salmon production because we made it at uni, but we do have a company, and we're all a part of it. And we all made the film, so it's a bit of a by proxy. We've kind of made it as well together. So yeah, and that whole network that we're talking about as well is attached to Fat Salmon as well in Sydney. So if anyone ever wants another movie made about a 3-meter long penis, just come to Fat Salmon.
Spoiler alert. Right. No, that's fantastic, and I think that not to go off on another tangent, but I really think that that's something that a lot of filmmakers can learn from, because I don't see it very often where you create that kind of a space with a bunch of other people who share that passion. I think there are a lot of small pockets here and there in Utah. I can't speak about the rest of the country, but in Utah there are a lot of small pockets, but there's nothing quite like that I've found, of just like a larger group of filmmakers who are so passionate and just working together and creating such just fantastic work. Really, like almost everybody that I've shown it to, everyone who walked out of screenings just was talking about how funny it was, how incredible, and the people who got that masculinity subtext thought it was just such a clever way to talk about that, because it's, you see a lot of darker, heavier pieces that delve into masculinity, or really over the top comedies, but something that really is so thought out and well executed. I think you guys did an absolutely amazing job, and I cannot wait to see what you do next. And speaking of what you do next, are you working on anything right now?
I'm working on like a long form series script, another comedy about a murder mystery that's set in a primary school. Primary schools are elementary schools in Australia.
You ignorant Americans.
Yeah, sorry. Just to let you know.
Google it, all right? Look it up.
It's about
It's like
I guess you'd call it Big Little Lies crossed with Napoleon Dynamite, almost.
That sounds really engaging.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, a kid dies, and all the comedy that it follows is great, as you can imagine.
follow a substitute teacher, right, on her first day of school.
Yeah.
She gets blamed for the murder of a child, and then has to go up against the dark, shadowy forces of the P&C and school council to clear her name.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of corruption, a lot of underqualified teachers. No penises in this one though. Shit. Gotta write it in.
Almost like the American school system. No, that's really fantastic. I really appreciate you guys sitting down with me, and I hopefully in the future would love to do more in-depth interviews with you guys. I mean, you're going to be in Sydney, obviously, but thanks to modern technology, that can definitely happen. So I'll make sure and get all your guys' info and link that in the description below, so that you guys the audience, not you guys the filmmakers, can check them out. And thank you guys for listening, and I will be back hopefully very soon with more episodes and more content from myself and other really incredible DIY low budget filmmakers like these guys, who are just crushing it here up at Slamdance. So thank you all so much for coming in.
Thanks so much, mate.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us. Cheers, mate.